Started out as Toyota's luxury car division that your dentist drove, was slowly, meticulously morphed into a manufacturer that makes some of the best sports cars in their respected class. And it all started with one car. This is the story of the Lexus LFA. Let's take a trip back to the 1990s. Lexus was doing well in the luxury car market, but they weren't exactly Mercedes or BMW like they were expecting to be, because BMW had M Division and Mercedes had AMG. And that means not only were their cars just as luxurious as the Lexus, they were also about 10 seconds a lap faster. And Lexus knew that their brand image was a man carrying golf clubs and thinking about the joys of retirement, not going fast. So, in 2004, they came up with a radical concept. The LF concept, to be exact. And they began meticulously working on it. They began testing it at the Nürburgring. And they were setting laps and laps and laps. And by 2006, they were making good progress. But a hiccup came in 2007. They scrapped the entire project because they determined the aluminum chassis was too heavy. And they went with carbon fiber instead, restarting from scratch. So, 10 years later, 10 years of development, of testing, of laps of the Nürburgring, laps of every track you can think of, 10 years of meticulous hard work came together to create this. The Lexus LFA. It was a V10 naturally aspirated 4.8 liters of Fury, rear-wheel drive, and, well, it was unsurprisingly the fastest Lexus anyone's ever seen. It had everybody staring in awe. And then you heard what it sounded like. You see that 4.8 liter V10? It's not just a showpiece. It produces 553 horsepower and makes a glorious Formula One style noise. Yeah! It is arguably one of the best sounding engines of all time ever. Undeniably, unequivocally a fact. And what's even more impressive is the little details on it. First, it is the size of a V8. I don't know how they did that, but Lexus took a long time to get this engine right. And it weighs as much as their V6. How do you have a V10 that weighs as much as a V6 and is the size of a V8? That's not how physics works. And yet, that's just Lexus physics. It's a different realm of physics. And since it's a naturally aspirated V10, it can go from idle to the max revs of 9,000 RPM in just 0.6 seconds. That's less than a second. 0.6 seconds from idle to max. That's ridiculous. And all of this technical wizardry, well, that meant it was pretty rapid. 0 to 60 comes and goes in 3.7 seconds. Not bad for 2010. And with a top speed of 202 miles an hour, it was certainly a supercar. So, how well was it received? Well, it was universally acclaimed. Lexus had done it. They had proven to the world that they can make a supercar that's good. There was a catch though. No one can afford it because it cost $350,000. And since it took so long to develop the car, even with that ridiculously high price, it was still losing Lexus money. Yeah. But, in case you thought that all those laps of the Nürburgring were pointless, Lexus is here to prove you wrong. Because they made a little package on the side called the LFA Nürburgring Edition. It had 10 more horsepower, 563 horsepower, and was even lighter. So, what did its lap time? It did a pretty respectable, again, you have to remember this is 2010. The McLaren MP412C hadn't been invented yet. The Lamborghini Aventador was still 2 years away. So, these times are pretty impressive, and the 7-minute and 14-second lap was one of the fastest laps in the history of production cars at the Nürburgring at the time. It was 8 seconds a lap faster than the Nissan GT-R. 8 seconds! That's mighty. That's very mighty. So, speaking of the Nürburgring, Lexus, under the Gazoo Racing Team, yes, that is their actual name, competed in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, one of the most extreme endurance races you've never heard of. And, well, I can't think of any way to say this, but on its debut year, for the production car anyway, in 2010, it won its class quite considerably. Nice job, Lexus. Not only did you design a supercar, you also designed one heck of a race car. Even with equivalence of technology, it decimated the field, claiming first in its class. And all of this lasted less than 3 years. Because just a few years later, the LFA was gone. Off the shelves, no more were made. Production was gone. You couldn't buy anything. It was dead. It lived a short life, but in that short life, it blew everybody's socks off and sent them into the atmosphere. So, what is their plan? Are they going to replace the LFA? No. There was a quote by one of the executives at Lexus saying, the LFA is the pinnacle of their company, and they can reference it for over 20 years down the line. So we're not getting a replacement anytime soon, sadly. But we will get a successor in the form of the LC500. This is not a supercar. This is a Grand Tourer meant to compete with the M6 and the Jaguar F-Type. It had 471 horsepower from a V8 engine. And it was, again, a very good car. It had the same problems as the LFA in the fact that it was an underpowered vehicle in its category, but it did 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and a top speed of 168 miles an hour. Not bad, not bad. And in fact, it is the first luxury production car to ever have a 10-speed gearbox. Because you need 10 gears for reasons, I guess. And there's massive brakes, some of the biggest brakes ever fitted to a production car at 15.7 inches in diameter. That's twice the size of your hand. And it needs those brakes because it weighs 4,300 pounds. It's a bit of a heavy bugger. But I shall leave you with that engine note. And I'll be back with more.